Just in on the North Korea crisis, Vice President Pence now set to lead the U.S. delegation to the Winter Olympics next month in South Korea. A senior White House official telling Fox the move is meant to reinforce the strong U.S. presence on the Korean peninsula, while sending a clear message to the North Korean regime. All this on the heels of landmark talks between North and South Korea, where both sides agreed to further discussions on easing military tensions along their border.
You hear a lot about these fears about a wedge in the alliance between the U.S. and South Korea. Well, the real way to create a gap between the two is if Washington undermines Seoul's effort. And it's very important that President Trump is not doing that.
Joining us now, Jerry Seib, executive Washington editor for the Wall Street Journal. You seem pretty positive about the results of those talks thus far.
Well, as far as they went, I think they were successful, particularly, from the point of view of the South Koreans. What they'd hoped for was to pave the way for North Korea to participate in the Olympics next month in South Korea. That would be both a confidence-building measure, would reduce tensions, and would remove the cloud that hung over those Olympics, in the sense that people were, is North Korea going to do something crazy to disrupt them? Well, now not. That was one thing that was accomplished in the talks. And the South Koreans seem to have succeeded in convincing the North Koreans that they ought to be broadened out a little bit to talk about lowering tensions generally. So that's all great. I think the darker underside from the point of view of some people, including some people in the U.S., is that maybe this is all designed by the North Koreans to simply drive a wedge between the South Koreans and their American allies, create a positive environment in talks between the two Koreas that leave the U.S. on the outside, and that precludes the possibility of the U.S. taking some military action against North Korea. That's why I think this news that Vice President Pence is going to the Olympics is really important, because that's a sign of support for the South Korean government as it holds those Olympics.
There are obviously a lot of hurdles that remain, and let me read for you some of your own writings as they appeared in the Wall Street Journal. North Korea wants the U.S. to forswear joint military activities with South Korea in advance of talks, while the U.S. insists the goal of talks should be to eliminate North Korea's nuclear arsenal, not merely contain it. Each side finds the other's conditions unacceptable. Indeed, diplomats suspect North Korea's engagement with South Korea is an attempt to drive a wedge between Seoul and its American allies, thereby reducing the possibility the U.S. could take any kind of military action against Pyongyang. So the idea, you think North Korea is kind of embracing its southern neighbor and saying, hey, you don't need Uncle Sam in this fight.
Well, that's a possibility. Who knows what the North Korean strategy or rationale is? But I think the point is in the longer term, really de-escalating tensions over North Korea's missile and nuclear programs is going to involve not talks only between North Korea and South Korea. It's going to have to involve conversations that include the North Koreans and the U.S. And the problem right now in getting that diplomacy going is, as I wrote in that piece, the North Koreans want the U.S. to do some things it's clearly not going to do, which is to basically say, okay, we're done with military exercises with the South Korean allies, and we'll back off on economic sanctions as a kind of precondition to going into those talks. That's not going to happen. And the U.S. wants the North Koreans to understand that the goal of these talks from the American point of view is to eliminate the North Korean nuclear program, to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. And the North Koreans don't sound as if they're interested in talks with that as the ultimate goal. So the question right now is, if you want a broader diplomatic initiative to get going beyond the North-South Korean talks, how do you make that happen with those obstacles in the way?
Yeah. And as these talks go on, the North can continue working on its nuclear program.
Right. That's correct. And so far, they've been less provocative in recent months than they have been previously, but we'll see.
Yeah. Jerry Seib, Wall Street Journal. Good to have you on. Thank you.
Thanks.